Hi, hello, how you doing? Welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Mariana, but you can call me Mari. And today I will be talking about the books I read in January and February. Okay, two things. My shirt says MILF, but because... Isn't it cute? Isn't it adorable? I love it. Okay. It's kind of funny. This was my gift to myself for finishing my first semester of my master's. So yeah. So the second thing that I wanted to mention is that I failed. Editing Mariana here. I don't know why I phrased it like that. I did not fail my master's. You will see what I failed at, but I don't know why I phrased it like that. Anyways, so dramatic. Back to the video. Once again, on keeping up with uploading videos. I actually recorded some things, a bunch of things, and then never got around to editing it. I think mostly because I underestimated how much work I would have to do January and February. In January, I had a lot of rehearsals because I participated in a play and then we performed that in February. So yeah, I didn't have that much time. But then also, I don't want to give you a bunch of excuses. I am going to take advantage of just this section to show you a little bit of what my life has been here in Freiburg. I can put some clips of the things that I was able to record during that time and then get back to the book content. So yeah, I have my drink. I have my Goodreads list of the books that I've been reading because even though it has been a couple of very busy months, I've been keeping up with books and reading and all that fun stuff. So let's get into it. I started off the year strong by continuing my Hermione fanfiction reading journey. And I read Draco Malfoy and the Mortifying Ordeal of Being in Love. And all of a sudden, a lot of people started reading this as well. For some reason, I feel like Hermione just started being a thing at the beginning of the year. So I joined the hype, but since last year, because last year I read Manacled, which I also really enjoyed. It was included in my favorites as like an honorable mention. So then I decided to just continue reading more fanfiction, and this one was advertised as like a light fanfiction, which I needed after reading Manacled. So this follows Draco and Hermione after the events of the 7 books. So this is not like Manacled, as in like a reimagining of the events. It's actually after. And then Hermione has become an amazing, wonderful, incredible scientist in the Muggle world and also in the wizarding world. And she's just being a girl boss and kicking ass in the STEM field. And because of that, she is coming up with different things in the scientific community, and Draco actually became an Auror, and he gets assigned to protect Hermione because she is working on a very secret case. So yeah, we follow them as they kind of have to rebuild any type of relationship or form of communication because obviously they didn't like each other in the original books. So yeah, it's a very, very, very slow burn romance. And I loved it a lot. I actually really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, it was 600 pages of slow burn perfection. And I gave it 4 stars. The next book I read was Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. And this book was incredible. I actually had been reading it since last year. It took me a couple of months to finish it, and I think it's because I just needed to savor the story. The writing style is something that I cannot describe. It's flourished, but not in a pretentious way, and it's not purple prose by any means, like in my opinion. And I just got very invested in following the characters. In case you don't know, this is a kind of like a reimagining, I guess, like a fictional retelling, obviously, because it's a historical fiction novel, of Hamnet, who is Shakespeare's son. But we actually really follow Shakespeare's wife, Agnes, and her life, and everything that happens from the moment that she meets Shakespeare to the moment that she has her family, and just a lot of things happen in the novel. And the reason why I think it took me so long to read it is because it deals with grief in a very impactful way. And it was very hard to get through some of the chapters and to get through some of the discussions on grief and what it means and how it affects a person. And yeah, so another thing I really, really liked about this novel is the fact that Maggie O'Farrell never mentions Shakespeare. I wouldn't say he's a very important part of the novel. And that also gives it character because you're following other people and how their lives are influenced by this famous kind of mythical figure in English literature. And her writing is stunning. I would highly recommend this novel as like a historical fiction novel that you can easily read. But it is also quite hard in your heart. And I marked all the different places. I would definitely love to analyze this in like an academic way, but other than that, very, very good. And I gave it 4 stars just because it did take me a couple of months to finish, and then just because it did slow down in the end. But again, I think it's worth it. I think it's wonderful, and I really liked it. Then I read North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. And this I read for university for a Victorian women's writers course. And it was really good, actually. Some things I liked, some things I didn't. Obviously, I had to read this for uni, so we got a chance to discuss it. And as we were discussing it, I think I liked it more, which is usually what happens in academia and in classes generally. And why I study literature, because it gives me a chance to discuss these novels. And the way that I would describe this is like Pride and Prejudice, but for socialists. So yeah, if you like Pride and Prejudice, I think you would enjoy this. But also, I think the social aspect of this novel is very, very well explored. And I give it 3 stars, but not because it's a bad book objectively. I just don't know if this is the type of book that I would gravitate towards if it wasn't for university. So I think I can get out a lot from it, but in terms of enjoyment, which is one of the reasons why I rate books the way I do, in terms of enjoyment, I would say this one kind of falls into the 3-star category. And in this novel, we follow a woman called Margaret, who moves from the countryside to the city. And it discusses the Industrial Revolution, the consequences of it, and yeah, the differences between the city and the countryside, and the differences in culture, the differences in people, their characteristics, their personalities, and their interactions with each other. Yeah. And then I read another book for the Victorian Writers course, and this one was Middlemarch by George Eliot. And I would have 100% not read this if it wasn't for the course, and I would have DNF'd it, for sure. I don't really like this novel. I understand the literary merit it has, obviously. I loved discussing it in class. I think it deserves to be recognized as an important novel when it comes to the actual novel itself, like the construction of a novel and the criticisms that women were getting during that time. George Eliot is kind of a controversial figure because she wrote the famous essay, what is it called? Like little books by silly novels by novelists, by silly little novels by silly novelists, or something like that. It's called Silly Novels by Lady Novelists. You're welcome. And she criticized women's writing during that time. So she wrote this novel, kind of, I feel like, in response to that. And it's a home epic, which means that we just follow characters around. And I always think of this meme, I'll pop it here if I find it, of like, this is just a book of characters following each other, like to each other's houses and having conversations at each other's houses. This is kind of what it felt like to read this book, and it's just not my cup of tea. The main characters, we follow them as they are delving with everyday life. Dorothea is the main character, and she gets married to a very old guy and kind of suffers the consequences of that. And we also follow a doctor who is also kind of unhappy with his situation and his marriage and the consequences of your choices in life. That's kind of what this novel is about. But yeah. Anyways, that is Middlemarch by George Eliot. Moving on. Oh, and I gave it 2 stars. Then, moving on. I read Eileen by Tessa Moshfegh. I actually read this at the gym as I was walking on the treadmill. And I must say, I was very much impressed. Tessa Moshfegh is actually an author I really enjoy reading from. All the books I've read from her are pretty good, but I think if I had to say, I think this one is my favorite. But I actually did like Love Wanna, even though it was weird, very weird. But Eileen follows Eileen, who works at a prison for underage men, underage boys. And she becomes obsessed with the new psychologist who arrives, whose name is Rebecca. And yeah, it's just about her experience as a 20-something-year-old girl. I think she's like 23. And she is very disturbed. This book is very disturbing in different ways. I feel like maybe some people won't find it disturbing. I honestly have read worse, but this is just disturbing in the fact that it kind of just puts out all the intrusive thoughts that you would have in your everyday life. And Tessa Moshfegh is just not scared of writing very, very unlikable characters. Like, you just don't like Eileen. You just don't empathize with her. But it's so interesting to read from her perspective because of the fact that I don't relate to her. But I do relate to her in other ways. So I thought this was a very good novel. And I gave it 4 stars. Then I read the 3rd book in a trilogy by Frederick Backman called The Winners. This is part of the Bear Town series or trilogy. And it was a very beautiful conclusion to a wonderful set of novels. I remember when I read Bear Town, it wasn't my favorite Frederick Backman, but as you read the other ones, you grow more and more attached to this little town and the people in this town and the politics of this town. I will say that this delved a lot more into politics than the other books, which I didn't mind. It is a criticism that I've seen a lot about this novel, but I actually really, really enjoyed it. And I liked the conclusion. It was so heartbreaking and dramatic, but in the best way, and then also in the worst way. And yeah, my heart just ached after reading it, and I'm kind of sad it's over, but happy it happened, or glad it happened.
Hi, I'm back eating a pretzel. I actually don't like this saying at all, but it goes, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. And that's what I was trying to say here. And I just couldn't remember it. But yeah.
So I give it 4 stars. And I can't really go into the synopsis because spoilers. So if you're interested, I would recommend checking out Beartown because it is a very good novel, or any of Frederick Backman's novels, because he's a very, very good writer. And he actually has written one of my favorite novels of all time, which is A Man Called Uva, which I love very much. Then I read The Serpent and the Wings of Night. Very overhyped TikTok romantasy novel written by Clarissa Broadbent. And I must say, I loved it. I really liked it. Yeah, I haven't felt this strongly about vampires in such a long time. And in this novel, we follow a girl who's a human, and she gets rescued by the king of the vampires and gets kind of thrown into this life where she grows up as like the daughter of the king, pretty much. But her being a human puts her in danger because she's surrounded by all these vampires who all want to just kill her and drink her blood. And yeah. And she enters this tournament kind of to become like the right hand of her father, like the king. And yeah, a lot of things happen. There's also like a very slow burn romance in the novel, obviously because it's a romantasy. I actually enjoyed the world building. Now looking back and looking at Fourth Wing and kind of seeing this in comparison, I would say that this is a much better book than Fourth Wing, and it's better written, and the world building I think is better, and the romance is good. It's so good. And the best thing about this is that actually the sequel, The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, is actually good too. Like, the problem that I had with Fourth Wing is that the first novel like took me by surprise and I really enjoyed it, but then the second novel I did not like. Or I felt like it was very repetitive and kind of stupid at some points, to be honest. But this one, the sequel, works. Like, the author made it work, and she is very talented. And I would say it is a little bit overhyped, but if you enjoy romantasy generally, and if you were like a Twilight girly growing up and you enjoy like fantasy and slow burn romance and kind of like a grumpy sunshine type of situation, but kind of like rivals to lovers, question mark, I don't know, like friends, rivals to friends to lovers, this could be your cup of tea and you may enjoy it as I did. Who knows? And I gave the first book 5 stars, and then the second book 4 stars. Then I read the worst book I've read so far this year, which may come as a surprise for some of you, which is The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi. And I should have DNF'd this. I shouldn't have finished it, to be honest. I told myself I wasn't gonna do this anymore, like just continue reading books that I didn't enjoy, but honestly I just thought it would make sense in the end. And though I understand the story, I didn't like it. And I hated the writing. I hated the purple prose that this novel has. It was very, very tiresome to read. Very, just too much at times. I love female rage, and I love complicated toxic relationships, female toxic relationships, but this one was just not well crafted. Like, it felt like the author was just trying to throw in fancy words just to sound fancy, but there wasn't like a deep meaning to the story, if that makes sense. And in this novel, we follow Maxwell Castañeda, who is gonna get married, or who meets and wants to marry a girl called Indigo. And Indigo is very mysterious and has a lot of secrets, and her past is very dark, but we don't know why. And as the novel continues, we start learning about her childhood and her friendship to another girl called, what's her name? Usher. And we start discovering the secrets that she so badly wants to keep hidden from Maxwell. And yeah, I mean, it is gothic, it is dark, but it's boring. That's just the truth. So yeah, I give it 1 star. As I wrote in my review, it was a convoluted mess of purple prose that feels like it was written by AI. Yeah, that's kind of harsh, but it's just, yeah, kind of how I feel about this novel, so cannot lie. Sorry. Oh, and I should say, I read 5 books in January and 5 books in February, and this was the last book I read in February, which was Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I finally caved, and I read another TikTok overhyped novel. This was a romance between a hockey player and an ice skater, which is one of my favorite tropes of all time. Those movies, like any movie or TV show that includes a figure skater and a hockey dude, or 2 figure skaters like falling in love, I'm in. You know that show they canceled on Netflix, Spinning Out? I was a big fan of that show. I really wanted the 2nd season, but they canceled it, so sad. But I really liked it. So I had high hopes, even though I honestly had already almost read it. Like, I had already seen so many videos talking about it and full of spoilers, and I knew about the Gru scene with the minions. But I wasn't expecting it to be like that. Quite honestly, I mean, everybody said it was like that, and then I read it and I was like, that's what you mean. So yeah, in the novel we follow Anastasia, who's a figure skater, and something happens in the hockey ring which makes her interact with the captain of the hockey team, Nathaniel, and they start just bickering and going back and forth, and a lot of things start happening. But the fun thing about this novel is that you get to meet the entire team of hockey players and, all the bros. Yeah, kind of like himbos, but in a very nice way. I actually liked the set of characters. I know some people hate them, but I thought they were fun. And then, Anastasia has one friend, her name is Lola, and then her partner for figure skating, Aaron. And he's a dick. I hated him, but yeah. And then we follow them. It's kind of pointless. Like, the novel doesn't really have a plot, which is my main issue, which is why I was gonna give it 3 stars. But then something happens at the end of the novel, and I am gonna talk spoilers now, so I'm gonna put spoilers here on top. If you don't want to hear it, please skip to when the sign is not in the screen anymore. But she gets pregnant in the end, after having said that she doesn't want to get pregnant the entire novel. Like, throughout the novel, she kept repeating that she didn't want to get pregnant because it would ruin her body, her life, her career. And then in the end, she just got pregnant. She was like 22, 23. Like, what do you mean? I thought you cared about your career. I don't know. It just felt weird. I was like, why is that the conclusion that you want to reach in a novel? Why? Why is that the case for so many romance novels that I've read? Colleen Hoover, for example, loves pregnant women. And then now, apparently, this author, Hannah, also loves pregnancy in her novels as a plot device, which I hate. I hate it so much. Especially accidental pregnancy, this is the case. And they just like sparkle it in at the end. At the very end is like the epilogue. Why? If I hadn't read that last chapter, I would have given this novel 3 stars. But then I ended up giving it 2 stars, because, yeah. Okay, so spoilers over. That is Icebreaker. Again, I gave it 2 stars for the reason I just discussed. And it was fun, but I don't think I'm going to continue on with the other books in this series. Maybe I'll pick up the book about Henry, which was by far my favorite character in the novel, I think. And also because I read it with a friend, which was very fun. She marked her thoughts, and like she also has the same way of like marking her books with the like sticky notes and the themes and everything. So we would just have a very nice conversation in the novel, inside the novel. I would leave my own sticky notes on top, and then yeah. So I think if we ever do read another book in this like series that she's doing, like the author is writing for each of the players, I think we would choose Henry's novel and do the same thing. Like I would read it and then annotate it and then give it to her. So she can also write some like sticky notes and like put them in the novel and everything, and just kind of share our thoughts. But that's kind of fun. Very, very fun. I love when readership is shared in real life. But I also love being here and talking. So yeah, I've been talking long enough. I hope you enjoyed this. We will see each other soon, hopefully. And I hope you're having a wonderful start of the year. I hope your January, February, and March has been amazing. And I will see you soon with another video very, very soon. Goodbye.